Yes.
How old was she when she died, and when was that?
So she died in 1982, and I believe she was in her mid-70s. And she'd been a smoker her whole life, and she successfully went through a lung cancer surgery, and then died of pneumonia. But what her sort of the peak of her career came in the late 60s. And by the 1970s, she was in ill health. Her husband was in ill health. She had shuttered the Nathaniel Branden Institute. She eventually stopped publishing her newsletter. So she really retreated from public life during the 1970s. So the 60s are really the sort of bellwether of her being active. But as we've been talking about, there's a cyclical nature to her appeal that sort of, now that she's not around, she's maybe more popular than ever. So, yeah.
During your research, did you cross paths with Leonard Peikoff?
Leonard Peikoff is the last remaining member of the collective. The question is, did I cross paths with Leonard Peikoff? And was designated by Rand as her intellectual heir. He owns the copyright to all of her work and all of her unpublished work. So he was as the official estate of Ayn Rand, he gave me permission to publish the unpublished material that's in my book. Other than that, I had no personal contact with him whatsoever. So, yeah, well.
Even if you don't embrace objectivism fully, what parts of it do you find most appealing or convincing?
I think I'd probably go back to your earlier question about the fountainhead. I think there's, some really vital truths about being true to yourself, knowing yourself, and really being authentic and honest with yourself, and the lesson that if you aren't that way, you will eventually regret it. So to be a first-hander in every realm of your life, I find that meaningful and inspirational, and I think that's one of her great contributions, and really meshes well with a lot of traditional American individualism, and I think that's one reason for her perennial appeal. So, yes?
Do you think that a young person who had never heard of Ayn Rand or picked up Fountainhead, not having any idea of the background, could enjoy it purely as a novel? Do you think it has that level of, did she have that level of talent purely as a novelist?
Yeah, so could you read The Fountainhead just as a novel, as something artistic? I think absolutely, and she actually wrote it, she designed it very deliberately so you could read it as a story or you could read it as a parable, and she tried to do this with all her work. And she's been relentlessly panned and criticized for being a choosy writer, but I mean, nobody who writes 700 and 1,000-page books that become bestsellers is a bad writer. I mean, there's some very compelling moments in her work, and so if you can get into the story and let yourself be taken away with it, absolutely. And so a lot of times people discover the books first on the level of the story, and depending on how much they go back to it or how attuned they are to broader issues, they may or may not uncover these political pieces of it. So my focus is really on people who read it not just as a story, but read it as a story with political meaning that they were determined to act upon or express. So. Yes?
What kind of political credentials did you have to supply the Institute to be able to gain this kind of access? It seems to me that you said that they didn't allow everyone in. I'm just wondering how that was granted.
So I think it wasn't political credentials, but scholarly credentials. I was a student at the UC Berkeley History Department, which has a very prominent reputation, and I didn't actually have any objectivist history, and I think that counted in my favor. I'm an outsider to the objectivist world. I know it very well, but I haven't been involved and been a stakeholder in any of the disputes of that community. I think had I been, it might have been more difficult. I really didn't know that much about Rand when I came in, and I think that the Institute was really open to that, knowing how I wanted to approach her historically, and I felt like there was an important story to be told here, and they were receptive to that. So. Unless anyone has more burning questions, I'll wrap up. Thank you for your attention, and I will be signing books, I believe, over there. I'm not sure, but yes. So support Kepler's, buy a book. Thanks for coming out, and I'll see you at the table. Thanks.